mansions, parties, fast cars, and more money than you could ever spend. That's the American dream, right? From the moment you're old enough to know what money is worth, you're told that if you just work hard enough, if you just hustle long enough, you could have it all. But the American dream is a sham, the ultimate con. The game is rigged against you after all. Again and again, you try and fail. That big break seems forever out of reach. But what if I told you there was a way you could go from Joe Schmo scraping pennies to a millionaire in a matter of months? I'm talking about private jets, yachts in Monaco, and your own flame red Lamborghini to carry you into the life you always knew you deserved. You don't even need the brains of a financial whiz to build your very own Ponzi scheme. All you need is to get a little creative with your morals. Heck, if Bernie Madoff, just a boy from Queens with a degree in political science, can pull off the $17.5 billion heist of the century, then what's stopping you? Most Ponzi schemers are average Joes like you and me. The guys running these scams aren't the geniuses responsible for making themselves rich. It's all the everyday suckers who fall for it that are the ones to blame. Because the truth is, people who get ripped off by Ponzi schemes don't just deserve to get scammed, they're asking for it. Sounds dark, right? Well, that's because it is. Let me walk you through the dark tactics of the world's most diabolical Ponzi predators and why their victims deserve what they got coming. Ponzi schemes aren't your modern-day invention. No, they have been around since our distant forefathers stopped chasing antelope and started bartering. This simple system taps into the desires of almost everyone you meet. That is, the desire to get rich quick. And the man who started it all, Charles Ponzi, of course. He was a poor Italian immigrant who arrived in Boston in 1903 with $2.50 and a $1 million dream. Ponzi took advantage of the exchange rate in international reply coupons sent to the US, allowing overseas senders to include a coupon to buy American stamps for a reply letter. He discovered early that the scheme was impossible due to the sheer number of coupons needed to turn a profit. But that didn't stop him from taking more investors' money and promising them ridiculous interest. This dramatic success was also his undoing, and his scheme was soon exposed. He might not have kept his fortune, but he gave the world his name. And this is how the Ponzi scheme was born. Ponzis are everywhere, and the numbers rise each year. The Sentinel recorded 853,935 imposter scams last year alone. So now has never been a better time to get your Ponzi off the ground and take a piece of the action. The first lesson in the Ponzi playbook is not selling your scheme, but yourself. To be a Ponzi great, it's essential to look the part. Like a leopard stalking in the jungle, the most successful Ponzi predators perfect their camouflage. They draw in their victims by imitating how their targets look and dress. The way you present yourself inspires trust and loosens your victim's purse strings. And in the making is to look for investors close to home. Finance folk call this affinity fraud, where you choose the victims most similar to you in religion, social status, or nationality. The victims are less likely to be critical when an offer comes from their friend. Take a note from the Ponzi playbook. The original Ponzi targeted poor Italian immigrants. He was just like them and they trusted him. Bernie Madoff hunted in charcoal gray Seville rose suits and expensive watches. He touted his mansion in the Hamptons and his villa in France as a powerful camouflage to lure his wealthy investors. Ponzi artist Dana Gicchetto prowled the high-flying LA nightclub scene to hunt his young A-listers like Leonardo DiCaprio in the 90s. So if you decide that you're going to turn on your family, strangers, and friends and strip them of their cash, you better find where your victims like to hang out. Churches are as ripe a place for victims as a nightclub is for one-night stands. When you combine humankind's desperate search for meaning and the almighty dollar, you tap into a wellspring of cash of biblical proportions. Gerald Payne launched his $448 million Ponzi venture using his Greater Ministries platform. This ex-con house painter turned preacher even had the gall to use Bible quotes to elicit his not-so-godly funds from his worshipers. Sure, Bernie Madoff had a standing as a NASDAQ chairman and seemingly impressive credentials, but his real game was gaining the trust of the Jewish elite by schmoozing them in the country clubs of Long Island and Palm Beach. But just looking the part is only the start. It brings them closer, but you need to make some seductive lies to reel them in. Let's look at how some of our Ponzi legends pitch their snake oil. Just like Jordan Belfort, aka the Wolf of Wall Street turned sales guru, said, the 3 most important things to make people hand you their cash come down to this: love your product and trust that it will fulfill their needs. Trust you as an expert in your field will satisfy their needs. Trust and connect with your company. Did you notice that none of these pillars contain any words about what they think, but the emotion of love and the word trust come up twice? As a Ponzi boss, you need to get your victims to feel. When people are emotional, they no longer think critically, and that's precisely where you want them. Making connections and earning your target's trust is the cornerstone of Ponzi greatness. But how do you do that? You listen. If you let your potential investors speak, they will offer up the roadmap to their feelings and desires. Once you know what they want, you can use it to sell pretty much any snake oil, and they will thank you for it. Always pay close attention by remembering the small details, like grandchildren's names, birthdays, and important events. People love people who take an interest in their lives. Mirror them as closely as you can. If your mark loves the Red Sox, become an even bigger fan. That's because the experts call this the similar to me effect, where we connect and trust people who are most like ourselves. One last thing, give them an air of authority, and they will follow you even if your deal seems iffy. As this is how Madoff was a master at pulling off the authority figure so much that the Jewish community fondly called him Uncle Bernie. Now you've got your camouflage on and you're spinning a sweet game. You may have their attention, but now you've got to really focus on your product to catch them in your Ponzi web. The trick is to build a fake business opportunity that lures investors with promises of crazy returns. But there is no investment. You build them up for a fantastic opportunity, but at the base of it, you just have your own personal bank account offered in fancy wrapping. You've heard the old saying about selling ice to Eskimos, but Ponzi masters go one step further. They sell a dream to their investors. These schemes work so well not because people are stupid, but because everyone wants to believe in something. As a testament to how unimportant your product is, just take a look at these crazy successful Ponzi schemes. A virtual concierge scammed $70 million. Guru's emu-raising Ponzi scheme racked in $50 million. Latex glove Ponzi scheme, another $125 million. Cigarette Ponzi scheme, $5 million. Ant farm Ponzi scheme, $1.2 billion. You can pretty much sell a cabbage stock as long as it is risk-free and high profit. Take some notes from the playbook. Make your schemes sound important and confusing. Use jargon to sound more clever than you are. Another trick is to make the information a secret you can't share in case someone steals it. Fake NDAs make people feel like your secret is valuable and real. Don't forget to include credentials like PhDs, MBAs, CFAs, or ex-MBBs you can muster up, and this will lend your venture an air of authority and credibility. With all the charm you developed in the first stage of the scheme, you're on your way to fleecing folk like a pro. But you're still not a Ponzi master yet. You need to learn how to market your scams so your victim will really take a bite of that sweet apple. People are proud and lazy, so they would rather not admit they don't understand your pitch. So make your product super confusing by using all kinds of specialized language that most people won't understand. Chances are they won't bother to research it anyway, which is a win-win for you. Let's look again at the Ponzi playbook. Madoff claimed he had a proprietary algorithm, just a fancy way of saying he had a secret formula that only he knew. This is a great way to stop people from asking questions about the inner workings of your scheme. Keep it on the DL. The less public your dealings are, the less likely for the powers that be to stop your evil plans. But more than that, you can give an illusion of an inner circle and people will fight to get in on the action. Take a note from Madoff's playbook. Ban any printed advertising materials or marketing investment, and frequently turn away people eager to invest in your scheme. Why would Monster Madoff turn away cash when his scheme relied on new investors? Well, it's for 3 reasons. It makes the investment seem invite-only and plays on people's FOMO and the urge to be part of the action. Turning down an investment makes you appear more successful to your investors. And it's human nature to want what you can't have even more, and it makes people offer more money to ensure you don't turn them down. To add another layer of FOMO to your investors, place a strict time limit on investments after getting them hard by showing them their fake profits. Trust me, people will beg you to take their life savings. That's because financial folk call this the scarcity tactic, when someone promotes a false sense of urgency due to a made-up supply limit or limited time. If your victims feel they might miss out on your products, it'll make them foam at the mouth like a Kardashian outside an NBA locker room. Now you may know enough to get your scheme rolling, and that's great. But to launch your scheme off the ground and into orbit, there is one more secret in the Ponzi playbook I've saved for last. The secret to why these people deserve what they have coming is within the victim's own nature and the Ponzi master's greatest advantage. Why do people's own minds fail them when it comes to a Ponzi master? Well, the most obvious one is greed. Greed has been a part of human nature since we first formed into groups. We had to compete for resources, and those who didn't fight fiercely didn't survive. And that instinct is alive and well in our so-called modern minds. But there is a less obvious one. We also had to work together to survive as a species, so everyone is hardwired to be social. This instinct to be social is even more powerful than greed. These instincts together are Ponzi predators' bread and butter. So, how can we use those feelings to hijack our target's minds? Psychology. The human brain is rather bad at processing information. They call these cognitive biases. As a Ponzi boss, you should learn to use these errors in thinking to your best advantage, such as, most people's default setting is that what you are saying is true. People believe that bad things are unlikely to happen to them. They care more about being happy in the present moment than their future happiness. They have a herd-like tendency to follow what other people are doing. This is why people fall for Ponzi schemes again and again. It's in their nature. They can't help it. So now the money's rolling in and you're doing kilos of booger sugar or saving dolphins, whatever floats your boat. But there is one more thing on your Ponzi how-to list. You must get out while the going is good or face the music, because Ponzi schemes will blow up, and trust me, there will be casualties. Here's why. The Ponzi scheme relies on new investors coming in, and when the money stops flowing in, you will be facing a shitstorm of epic proportions. Your Ponzi is prey to internal and external factors. Ponzi schemes are vulnerable to outside factors we can't control, and Madoff's scheme would still be tickling on if it weren't for the 2008 market crash. Often the very success of a Ponzi is the seed for its own implosion. At heart, the Ponzi system is flawed and can't sustain itself. For example, if you pay your investors even 10% a month in interest, you would need 600 times more investors in only 2 years. That's why Warren Buffett says, only when the tide goes out do you discover who's been swimming naked. The trick is to get out while the going is good. But how the heck do you hide your money? You can use an offshore tax haven like these lovely little secret treasure islands, the Cayman Islands of course, or Bermuda, or the British Virgin Islands, or the Isle of Man. Start putting that lovely dirty money through the wash cycle when you plan your escape. One way to do that is to smurf your cash by breaking it into smaller amounts in different banks. Another is what's known as a road trip, by moving your money through so many hands that it's impossible to trace. One of the most fun ways to wash your dirty cash is to hit the casino. Try not to lose it all. There are millions of ways to clean your cash. You just need to get creative. So you have the play lined up step by step for Ponzi greatness. You might need some hints on where to look for your great idea. Well, don't worry, I got you covered. With technology advancing, you can find solid gold Ponzi ideas. Look at the latest technological innovations, products, and new industries to attract potential investors. People are often less skeptical of an investment opportunity when assessing something novel, new, or cutting edge. This is why cryptocurrency is a hotbed of Ponzi activity, and new avenues always open up with the rise of AI as we hurtle our way to the metaverse. So look to merging technologies and trends to harvest your Ponzi ideas. So why did I say that Ponzi victims deserve what happens to them? Am I some kind of monster? Well, no, but here's why. People need to learn this kind of lesson. We as a society need to become more critical of what we hear and believe. We must be aware of the shortfalls in our minds that allow people to exploit and manipulate us. And it's not just Ponzi predators, but charismatic leaders, politicians, and the hidden interests behind mainstream media. We deserve it because unless we wake up, we are doomed to be pawns of the ruthless workings of an elite who seek world domination. So now, after looking at how the Ponzi predators' minds work, you are more likely to spot one creeping up on you. Or, as you know all the tricks, you can become your very own Ponzi mastermind and make your millions. Although you didn't hear that from me.